Good evening, everyone. Before we get going, I will ask everyone to please silence cell phones and other electronic devices, and I'll call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. by recognizing the traditional keepers of this land and specifically our neighbors of the Alderville First Nation with a formal territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the municipality of Brighton is located on the Mississauga Anishinaabe territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga. The Council of the Municipality of Brighton respectfully acknowledges that the Mississauga Nations are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. And with that, we move to the approval of the agenda, moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that Council approve the June 12th, 2023 planning meeting agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Members of Council, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? And if so, please state the general nature thereof. And there are none noted. We have no delegations listed on tonight's meeting. We have no statutory public meeting this evening, which takes us to planning and development reports. Our first report is with regard to Hamilton Woods Subdivision extension of draft plan approval. Mr. Warren, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
Nothing to add at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rowley, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that Council receive the staff report regarding our request for a 3-year extension of draft plan approval, and that Council resolve to grant an extension of draft plan approval for Hamilton Woods Subdivision East and West, and further that the revised lapsing date for the draft plan approval be June 12th, 2026 for Phase 5, Hamilton Woods Subdivision, and further that the manager of approvals be authorized to give written notice of extension to the applicant and pertinent departments and agencies. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Our next is with regard to Presqu'ile Park Place, developed by Cheer Homes. Director Walsh, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
Nothing further, Mayor.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor Rowley, that Council receive the staff report regarding the assumption for public use of roads and all related above and below ground services and utilities for Ward Drive and Cooper Court, being registered plans 39M 838, 39M 857, and 39M 862. And that Council pass assumption bylaws to assume for public use the following roads and all related above and below ground services and utilities, including water, sanitary, and storm, specifically identified in registered plans 39M 838, 39M 857, and 39M 862, being what has been known as Presqu'ile Place Subdivision, Ward Drive, Cooper Court, and that specific 0.3 meter reserve blocks be assumed to the satisfaction of the municipal solicitor, being block 29 on plan 39M 833, block 29 on plan 39M 857, and block 130 on plan 39M 749. And that the municipal solicitor be directed to register the assumption bylaws at the Northumberland County Registry Office and have the authority to revise the bylaws so far as necessary for the purposes of accurate registration. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. Next report is an information report with regard to fill permit for Bhandal Brighton Groups Incorporated. Director Walsh, we've read your report. Do you have anything to add or highlight, sir?
Nothing further, Mayor.
Thank you. I have a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Wheeldon, that Council receives for information purposes this staff report regarding the issuance of a fill permit number FP01 2023 to landowner Bhandal Brighton Group Inc. pertaining to lands located in lots 31 and 32, Concession B, lying north of County Road 64 in the east end of urban Brighton. Is there any discussion? Deputy Mayor?
I understand it's the 90-day permit that's already been given. Is this something that will be coming back every 90 days, or is this a...
Director Walsh?
Through the Mayor to Council, the fill permit bylaw, the comprehensive bylaw 114-2016 makes it a mandatory every fill permit is for a maximum of 90 days. That 90 days can be probably extended through a site plan agreement. But that would be a separate approvals process while having regard for the requirements of the fill permit bylaw. This is issued for 90 days only, commencing at the time when the first period of fill is deposited, and 2 days notice prior to doing so must be given to the municipality. So in short, it is for only 90 days. It hasn't commenced yet because I haven't gotten notice that they've started to truck in fill. And there's a max on the total number of cubic meters that is also permitted. So there's a time limit and a volume limit.
As a follow-up?
So being every 90 days, is this not something that should be dealt with on a more of a permanent basis of us understanding where it's going, what's happening? Or is it we're going to look at this every 90 days?
So I believe under our current policies, the staff have the authority to issue a 90-day fill permit for this purpose. Is that correct, Director Walsh?
That's correct.
And if it extends beyond, or there's a wish to extend beyond the 90 days, that would have to come to council.
That's correct.
I'll be satisfied for now. Thank you.
It is for clean fill, is that correct?
Yes, and there's it's worth clarifying, Mayor. Originally, the fill permit application said the fill wasn't 100% clean. It was within the scope of regulations, but there's various grades within the regulations of the Environmental Protection Act, and a lot of that turns on the quality of groundwater. So the original applications assumed that there had been septage spreading on the lands for many years, and there just wasn't any record of the facts of that. So there was nothing to really rest our hat on that. The table within the regulations also recognizes a certain quality of fill being permitted on thin soils over potable groundwater. And so that is the basis for this permit, because that's what they've included in their fill management plan. So I think the idea is to, as construction activity picks up both in Brighton and in Quinte West, there's been, I guess, some major approvals in Quinte West, that there'll be a lot of basements to dig, and that should be a lot of clean fill, and it needs a place to go. And so, as council may have noted on the conditions of the fill permit, that there's no stockpiling of soil. It needs to be graded out, et cetera, on a timely basis. So it needs to be an actively managed site, and that there is a security that has also been deposited with the municipality to ensure those conditions can be met.
Thank you for that, Councillor Rowley.
Yeah, I just want to build on that a little bit, Mayor. When you talk about clean fill, I know we discussed that a few years ago. Will there be any testing done on that as the fill comes in? Is that something that will happen?
Director Walsh.
Yes, so under the Act, there are persons who are identified or defined as qualified persons for administering the Act. And a qualified person has been required as a condition of the permit to report back confirming that the fill is indeed meeting the requirements of our fill bylaw.
Go ahead.
One more question. Thank you. A few councils previous, I think there was discussion regarding a levy per truckload or per tonnage. Was that ever set in place? Do we have that in place?
Yeah, the amount was $2 per cubic meter. So when we did some estimates on volumes and whatnot, that's where the $100,000 deposit is. Yeah, so it's a $100,000 deposit. The actual application fee was only $500, but that $2 per cube, as we call it, is reflected in that $100,000 deposit. Yeah.
Thank you. Will the qualified person report to the municipality directly?
Yeah, they're expected to report to the municipality directly. I believe that's a condition right in the permit. Yeah, I'm almost positive that it's going to be reporting directly to the municipality.
That's good. That's comforting.
yeah.
And is there someone at the municipality responsible for the inspection of the site to make sure that it is being graded on a regular basis and that we're not stuck creating large piles of
Mhm.
fill?
No person specifically, but the public works in general. So that would fall under the purview of the director of public works and infrastructure, Mr. Leslie Whiteman.
Lucky you, Director Whiteman. Any further questions from members of council? Councilor Butwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very quick question. Is there any record that is kept of those individual loads? Like a bill of lading that is part of a searchable record?
Director Walsh.
I believe that is the responsibility of the qualified person. So they need to be able to attest the origins of the soil. And likewise, anything moving offsite, they have to attest for its destination if it's not, clean soil.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Those in favor? There being none opposed, that motion's carried. There are no items listed for information purposes. We have nothing under unfinished business. That takes us into bylaws. The first is with regard to the assumption of Ward Drive. It's moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Councillor Butwell. The council gives a bylaw. Its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to assume Ward Drive into the municipal road system. Is there any discussion? All in favor? There being none opposed, that motion is carried. The next is for the assumption of Cooper Court. It's moved by Councillor Fredis, seconded by Councillor Butwell. The council gives a bylaw. Its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to assume Cooper Court in the municipal road system. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. Brings us to question period. Is there anyone in the gallery who has a question with regard to anything on tonight's agenda? Do you want a minute to review the agenda? It was a pretty big one. Yeah. And there's no one on Zoom joining us. Thank you. We have no in-camera session this evening. Brings us to our confirmatory bylaw. It's moved by Councillor Butwell, seconded by Councillor Fredis. The council gives a bylaw. Its first, second, and third reading and finally passes on this date, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Municipality of Brighton Planning Meeting held on June 12th, 2023. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. And a motion moved by Councillor Wheeldon, seconded by Councillor Wright, that the June 12th, 2023 planning meeting adjourn at 6:43 p.m. Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Being none opposed, that motion's carried. I wish I could tell you that was a record, but it wasn't.